Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Reviewing Comics with me, your host, Alexander Turbin. Today we're going to be going over The Fish Police number 2. I don't have number 1, but we will jump on from there. But before we get into that, I'd like to show you some of my own artwork. This is Random Access, and it's a 12-page comic book that I produce every month for my Patreon. So you can check this out at patreon.com/Alexander Turbin. It's 10 pages of my work and then a couple pages of backstories, backup stories by Chris Knox and Paul Courtjohn. And this is the newest issue. It's 19, and it's has a fantastic cover by Jamie Barrows. Yeah, you can check these out, like I said, at patreon.com. And it's just $3 a piece, and you get a sticker as well. You could also check these out at alexanderturbin.com, which is my website. It has all the random accesses, as well as Mutandis and Forlorn and all kinds of other stuff that I've done over the years. And I'd really appreciate it if you helped out my art career, and it would surely help the channel as well. So, Fish Police, 1986. Written, produced, created by Steve Monacuse. He's the creatist, it says. So he basically did everything. Like I said, this is number 2, so I don't have the luxury of knowing exactly what happened in number 1. And it's a little bit not easy to understand what is going on. Not having read issue 1. Issue 2, it doesn't really have a backstory. It doesn't have, I really wish every comic would have a what came before on it, like Marvel. But Jim Shooter and Stanley and all the Marvel people always used to say was, this might be somebody's first comic. And it's so true. I've read a few Fish Polices before, but they were comical, and it was so long ago that I don't even remember exactly what happened. So I'm a little bit lost, and I looked some stuff up, and I couldn't really find any of the story plots. My biggest guess is that the main character, who you're not introduced to until halfway through the book, is a human that is magically transported and turned into a fish to some kind of SpongeBob-ish type world. He, excuse me, he's always making references to things like how am I drinking this beer if I'm underwater and stuff like that. I think that's the supposed to be the comical point of the book. What I get so far is that it's a noir type of thing, only the art is very not noir stuff. It's more like a Disney-esque stuff. But let's go through the book, and I'll talk about the writing and the art afterwards. And also in the comments, let me know if you guys have any of these original comics or the Comico comics. The Comicos are color, which was pretty cool. I think it adds a lot to the dimensionality of this. So you've got I assume it's the the chief of police, chief of the Fish Police, and I think maybe he's supposed to be talking about the backstory. He talks about Gil, who I think is the main character, but it doesn't really say what happened, which is very unusual for a character to be used as a plot device to explain what's going on, because he just says that he's been taken by Squid. No, Squid I think is like a James Bond villainous type of thing. And he wasn't taken by Goldie. Goldie is his girlfriend or some sort of actress, singer, something. I don't know. She's a famous fish, I guess, and she was taken by Squid. And we don't know why or what happened. And they don't really tell you exactly what happened. Just that, excuse me, just that Squid is involved, and that Gil is involved somehow. It really, really, truly does not tell you exactly what happened. All it is him just kind of talking to himself. Um, I don't know. It's weird, and then it's odd too, where he's here talking and he's talking to himself, and then it says prologue. So, did it? Was he talking to himself and then it becomes a prologue? No, I don't think so. I think this whole thing is a prologue with the fish captain. I guess he's the captain of the fish police, like I said. So he's having his breakfast and he's still talking to himself about Gil and Squid and Goldie and stuff like that. He doesn't like Gil apparently. So he's reading the paper and I don't know. He just keeps talking about squid. Doesn't really say anything about them. Just that there's some sort of nefarious group that has something to do with, I don't know, wanting to be leader of Fish City. I guess this actually was a cartoon with John Ritter narrating it and doing the voice of Gil, I believe. So it was quite popular back in the day. So chapter 1, that was the prologue. The whole thing was the prologue. So chapter 1, it has some sort of structure under the water. I think it's supposed to be a giant skull of some sort, and there's a person talking inside a cage. She's in a jail cell, and that assumably is Goldie, who the police commissioner captain was talking about. She was captured by squid, presumably. He doesn't really say a whole lot about the specifics. And in comes some sort of worm, snake, eel. So he's talking to Goldie, and she's trying to figure out what's going on. And he starts talking about the master. I think the master is the head of the squid nefarious group, terrorist group, I guess, of sorts. They interlace a little bit of humor. These prawns are like the the henchmen of squid, I guess, and she just kind of makes fun of them. And apparently they have hurt feelings whenever she says mean things to them. So that's it's interlaced with some humor. It's just not really my kind of humor, I guess. I didn't really find any of it really humorous or funny, but not for a lack of trying. And I mean, you think a thing called Fish Police would be really have a lot of humor in it, and really it's more like a noir detective comic with a little bit of humor placed in a fish type comic setting. So then it goes to a bar, River Frog Joe's, and we have the bartenders talking to, I think this is Gil, who is the main character, and they're just kind of talking, and Gil had something bad happen to him, I guess. I don't know whether he was fired from his job or banished from the fish police, or I don't know. It doesn't really explain what happened, and so they just kind of go back and forth with some light banter, and the bartender doesn't really like Gil, and it seems like nobody really likes Gil. So he's just sitting there at the bar, drowning his sorrows. The eel brings Goldie to the master, and he's apparently the big bad guy of the comic, and that's him right there. And he's just kind of a silly, goofy guy who kind of throws temper tantrums, I guess, once in a while. Reminds me a little bit of Cobra Commander, who just nobody really took seriously. So he's talking about wanting. He's the new ruler after he poisoned. So we get a hint of what happened in the last issue, where the master poisoned the previous ruler of Fish City. I don't know if it's really Fish City or Aquatica, or the name of the city that they live in and the fish police live in, and all of the fish people live in. But apparently he took over the ruling duties from some sort of bigwig fish guy, and but he doesn't want everybody to know. So he talks about Goldie, and he kind of introduces her, and she was this famous person, but she looks all haggard now, I guess, and doesn't look the same. So, but she's apparently a famous person or whatever. So they're gonna use him to they're gonna use Goldie to get Gil to come here. I don't know why, but apparently Gil's a loser and doesn't really have any kind of ambitions of finding Goldie. I think that Goldie was kidnapped and everybody thought that he would try to rescue her, but it's been a few days, I guess, and nobody's tried to rescue her, especially Gil, and that's making the master a little bit perturbed, and Goldie's not that happy about it either. Another interlude, I guess, or a cut scene to where what's his name is sitting at the bar, and what the heck's his name? I can't remember his name now. And then this other famous person who I think is Goldie's sister, maybe just sister as in friend, says, "Are you gonna go, Gil? That's his name. Are you gonna go save Goldie from Squid?" And Gil is like, "Nah, I don't think so. I'm gonna." So she smacks him in the face, and he's like, "What? My fault? What's going on?" So he just doesn't really care, and they kind of have this banter where she accuses him of just being a drunkard and a lazy bum and stuff, and he's fine with it. He doesn't care. I think maybe he was transported into this world. He started as a human and then he became a fish. So I think he's dealing with that in a different kind of way. I think he's depressed about it and doesn't really want to deal with any of the situation. But I don't know. Like I said, the story's a little spotty. I really wish I had number one to read. So then it goes back to the Master's Palace, and this is where they finally figure that Gil is not going to come rescue Goldie. So she's like, "Let me go after him to get a trap, I guess." And but the Master says, "No, I'll figure out what to do with you later." And he calls the guards. The guards are going to bring her back to her cell. And he kind of just laments on what's going on. Then we cut to another scene where Gil is talking about his predicament, talking about Goldie, talking about whatever's going on. And then he talks about his fins resting in a stream of water when he's actually underwater. So again, it's referencing maybe it's referencing that he was human, or maybe it's just referencing that it's a silly concept to have this city underwater where all of these liquidy things or smoke or whatever can come to realization when it's the same kind of thing in SpongeBob, and I don't think they ever actually talk about that in the show, but it's just kind of a kid's show, so you don't really care. But then this squid shows up, and he's trying to get Gil to go after Goldie and become a hero and save the day and stuff. And Gil is just not gonna have any part of it. So the squid takes off. And then the epilogue, it's talking about, I think this is, he's a calamari, but I don't really know who he is. Is he the previous ruler of Fishtown? I have no idea. And he just kind of talks about his guards. I don't know really. His niece Goldie. I don't really know who this character is, and I just have no idea. Or unless he's some sort of associate with the master, maybe, I don't know. But then the prawn come and they're going to try to take him to see the master, but the calamari just smacks the prawn away, and he, I don't know what he does. He has the rest of his day, and then he breaks a bottle. I don't know. It's kind of off. So the writing, as you can see, the plot is very convoluted, and I didn't really understand a whole lot of it. It's not spelled out in any kind of way, and it tries to allude to things and things that may have happened before. But if you haven't read the first issue, then you have no idea. You have no frame of reference, Donnie. But so it's really hard to say. All of the characters kind of talk in the same way. They kind of have a monotone way about them, and I didn't really find this interesting or enjoyable to read. I just read it a little while ago, and I was very confused. If I had read the first issue, I might have understood some things. But they don't really introduce characters. You're just kind of supposed to know who these guys are. Like, this is the chief, he said. So when you add characters in that, and while they're talking, and then eventually you kind of learn who they are. He does look like a chief, a police chief, so that's a little bit of help. But other than that, it's really kind of difficult to decipher who's who, other than Goldie, because she's only really one of two female characters. And but you don't really know what relationship she has to Gil. Were they partners? Did she go to him for help? I don't know. Is he a detective? Is he part of the police force? There's just so many unanswered questions that I feel like were either in the first issue or they just didn't say. The pacing is very off too, because it goes from scene to scene, which is fine. But then they have no real connection to each other. The scenes aren't connected to each other. It's like the soap operas would used to use this trick of when characters were talking to each other, whoever they were talking about would be the next scene. And that's not really what happens in this. It's more like jumping from scene to scene. And yes, there's Gil, and yes, there's Goldie, and yes, there's the Master, but there's no real indication of who they are and how they're related to each other and anything like that. So that's just really kind of a plot misstep. And the dialogue, like I said, it's all kind of the same thing. There's no real dialect of any sort. They all kind of just talk the same way, and I feel like he's trying to use some kind of old detective noir type thing, like a Sin City or something like that. But it's all just crowded together, and it just doesn't really do a lot for me as far as knowing who these characters are and wanting to know who these characters are. So as far as the art, the art is very crisp and clean. He's a fantastic inker. I don't know what his pencils look like. So many people, they just do roughs and then they go almost directly to pencil. I don't feel like that's the case with him. I feel like he does pretty tight pencils, but I don't know for that for sure. And I mean, the art is really, it's pretty professional looking. He's got some nice black spotting. His backgrounds are a little sparse, but they're there. You actually know where they are, so they do the job. He's got a lot of these zipatone areas, which adds to the differences in the characters and stuff. It's not just black and white where everything kind of bleeds together. So that's really pretty cool. All of the characters, they kind of look alike. Like all of the fish people kind of look alike. They don't really have much of a discerning qualities. I mean, yes, this guy has a mustache, but if he didn't have a mustache, he would be Gil. It's very reminiscent of a Disney type thing, and only not nuanced enough. There isn't enough nuance in each of these characters. Here's Gil. He has a hat, so therefore he's Gil. So, I mean, it's professional looking. I would like to see some of his art where it's real people looking, um, because, like I said, they all do kind of look alike. And I mean, he's got this clean style, and I enjoy that. I enjoy his inking. I enjoy his line work. He's got some really nice line work, and his panel preparation or his panel layout isn't that bad. It's a little bit too crowded for my taste. I would rather see 4 or 5 panels and some bigger characters. Like all of the characters are kind of the same size. He doesn't really give a lot of depth or anything to his characters. There is a good amount of texture, and there's different textures and stuff. I kind of wish some of these characters had some scales or something like that to add to the texture of it. But the gray tones, the gray zip tones or dual shade or whatever it is, it does its job. It does its job, and the gray, the different designy gray tones, and it's not all just one type of gray. It's lots of different tones of gray, which really adds a lot to it. So I'm not going to say I love the art, but it's manageable. It's manageable. It doesn't save the comic from being a hard thing to read. I remember kind of enjoying Fish Police back when I read the Comico issues. Maybe an editor went in and tightened up some of the stuff. But I don't know. I'll have to kind of dig and see if I have any of those Comico issues. So I'm giving this a 6. I just really didn't love the art enough for it to overcome the lack of storytelling. And I just really didn't enjoy reading it. I was lost half the time, and I didn't really care who the characters were. So yeah, it's a 6. I can't really give it much more. It's really only a 6 and not a 5 because I really like the line work of the inking. But 6. If you guys like this kind of content, please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell, and maybe a thumbs up if you like this kind of content and you'd like to see more comics reviewed of this kind of caliber. Please let me know, and if you have any recommendations on anything that I can review in the future, that would be cool too. If you're new to the channel, welcome, and I have a lot of different reviews. I have over 100 videos of different reviews, from Warlock 5 to all kinds of different Eternity comics and the NAM. There's some Marvel stuff in there too. So hope you guys enjoyed this, and let me know what you guys think of Fish Police. If you think I'm completely wrong and you really loved the book, then please let me know, and maybe I'll give it another shot. Maybe if I find #1 out in the wild, I'll give it another shot, and or some Comico issues. But until then, have a great week, and I will see you guys next time.